Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. I'm Dave Foster for First City News, and today we're taking a closer look at a topic that stirred questions and debate in Knox County, possibility of a wheel tax. At recent county government meetings, officials began early discussions after Indiana's new road funding law, House Bill 1461, was signed into law. That law did change how the state funds local roads and opened the door for new conversations about a county wheel tax. So what does that law actually say? What would a wheel tax mean for local drivers, and how could it impact Knox County's road funding in the future? That's what we'll explore today on Beyond the Headlines with Knox County Commissioner Kellie Streeter and County Council President Mike Morris. We thank you both for being here. So let's just kind of start out with the basics. What's a wheel tax?
It has nothing to do with wheels. It really has to do per plate. And you say wheel tax, the discussion isn't just about wheel tax. It is about two taxes that's called the LOHUT, which is a local option highway user tax. So the wheel tax is for passenger vehicles, more smaller common vehicles, and it's a per plate fee. There's a minimum and a maximum, but it's also an excise surtax. Again, for a type of a vehicle, its age, its condition, what if it's a sedan or a truck, and there's also a fee. So those two fees together, the excise surtax and the wheel tax, which is per plate, make the LOHUT. So I would like to refer to it as the LOHUT from here on.
Okay, so it's a LOHUT tax.
It is a LOHUT.
All right. So how does Knox County currently fund road projects?
Well, like most counties in Indiana, it's very prescribed how we fund our roads. Generally, most of our funding comes from the motor vehicle highway accounts that comes directly from fuel tax proceeds. And that is a formula based on our population and how many miles of road we have here in the county. Those then are for the construction, the reconstruction, the maintenance and repairs of our roads, and we use that primarily to fund all of those things, including our overhead. We also have a local road and street fund that comes again from the fuel tax proceeds, and then locally we've passed what's called a cum bridge tax. It's a very small tax that we use to fund about a bridge a year and some staff for maintenance of funds. But outside of that, we recognized years ago we need $8 million a year to maintain what we have and keep it at a level of acceptable according to the ratings. So we, as commissioners, went to the council many years ago and said we simply can't sustain what we have. Things are getting worse. Without raising any additional taxes in the county, we would like to use our economic development income tax, EDIT, to work on roads every year. We started investing about $500,000 out of income tax. We've since raised it up to $1 million, but we've came back down to $750,000 to fit our budget. And that's primarily where we fund the maintenance of our roads.
Now we've gotten something called Community Crossing Fund in recent years.
Yes.
So explain what that is and how that works.
So you hear CCMG a lot when we talk about roads and road grants. So CCMG is really, again, the motor vehicle highway account, which is funded by the fuel tax. And for years, the state has had so much money in that pot, they have looked at other ways to invest it. And a portion of that is directly to the locals. So it started where we would get a grant. It ranged, I believe, in the beginning about $750,000. It's now last year $1.5 million, this year $1 million. But we had to have a comprehensive asset management plan that literally graded every road we have, the length of it, the width, the surface type, and then grade it according to a 1 through 10 type grade. And we had to turn that into NDOT. It had to be approved. And if we had that approved plan, we could then apply for the additional CCMG grant. And for many years, it's been a 75-25 match. And they have changed that to 80-20 in the coming years. But we've been very successful. Knox County has been far ahead. We've always been one of the first to make application. So we're usually one of the first to get ours to bid. We're usually one of the first to get ours finished and get our reimbursements back. So we've been very successful every year.
So what does House Bill 1461 change about road funding and community crossings?
Well, so 1461 is still community crossings. It's just changing the where the money goes. Instead of the big pot of $250 million in CCMG, it's now going to be broken down to $100 million to the CCMG grants. It'll be a portion going directly to the railroad. It'll then be a portion going directly to another state program called TRACS. Next year, it'll be a portion going $50 million directly to Indy. And then whatever's left over in the motor vehicle highway account, the major change will be it goes to what's called a lane mile direct distribution. And that's where the wheel tax, surtax, low hut conversations come about.
Okay. So I know you spend a lot of time at the State House talking about these things.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And so the legislation basically says you need to pass a low hut tax in order to get community crossings, or at least a big part.
Not community crossings.
Okay.
That's been one of the biggest misunderstandings. Okay. Is the community crossings account. Its funding has changed, but $100 million is still going to be in the competitive grants. No low hut required. Okay. Now it's going to be much more competitive, and we are capped at $1 million. But the lane mile direct distribution, which is expected to house in between 200 million on average for the next 2 to 3 years, you will get that direct distribution based upon some variables: how many counties pass a low hut, how many lane miles you have, if you have an approved asset management plan. But those will be a direct distribution to every county, don't know how much yet, if you pass the low hut. So you pass the tax and we'll give you your money scenario.
So that's the state mandating that.
That is correct. House Bill 1461 prescribed that it was mandatory to pass this tax to get a portion of the motor vehicle highway account funds.
So we have to pass it.
If we want the new lane mile direct distribution of funding, we have to pass it. We can still apply for the grants, but we won't get the direct distribution.
So if Knox County decides to pass a low hut, do you know how much money realistically we could get, and what that would mean to, the average motorist with a few vehicles in his driveway?
So there is a range. As Council President and I spoke earlier, there is a minimum and a maximum of both taxes, the surtax, the excise, and the wheel tax. And to a common, I drive a common car, and the type of classification it is and the age, it could be, if we pass the minimum of the tax, it could be $20 a year. But if you have multiple cars, if you have trailers, if you have other forms of equipment like semi-trailers and semi-tractors and buses and campers, RVs, you're going to pay one of these fees on all of those. So, and it isn't a fee we pay now in Knox County. So it's to have to pass a mandatory set of taxes to receive funding that we've received for years in another format is very frustrating to me, and it has been all of legislative session.
And we're talking about a county level, but we talked earlier before we went on that this affects cities' government as well, correct?
That is correct. Every municipality will be required to pass the same low hut as well if they want to receive the lane mile direct distribution.
Okay, so it'd be Knox County and Vincennes and Bicknell, basically. Okay. So if the county chooses not to adopt this,
we go to the bottom of the list. To the bottom. Call it the bottom of the list, the technical term, whatever, but we slide further down the list.
We definitely do not receive the lane mile direct distribution.
Right.
I actually met with NDOT leaders this morning, and for the CCMG grant, which will be competitive, it's always been competitive, but very competitive now, they haven't defined yet the scoring methods of how if we will receive CCMG, which you can't help but worry that if we chose not to pass this tax, is it something that will hinder us in other grants? I like to think not. But I've heard from many legislators during all the discussion of this in the House and the Senate that counties are expected to invest more locally in their own infrastructure, and have more skin in the game, which is a term I hope to never hear again. And my rebuttal was counties were all different. 36 counties in Indiana have chosen not to pass this low HUT, and we locally opted to use our income tax revenues instead. So how can we work together and figure out a formula that says, here's our skin in the game, instead of this tax we choose not to pass? And it didn't work out that way, but we still can apply for CCMG.
Okay. So what's the timeline to pass this tax?
Well, for the lane mile direct distribution, that's not completely clear on what date you have to have it passed by. But to be safe, and I'm sure they're going to give guidance, it looks like by September of 26. So that's still yet to be determined.
Not right now, as people are thinking it's down the road yet.
So what would be the process of passing it, I guess, from start to finish? If you were to make a decision today, what would happen?
Right now, as Kellie's stating, this puts county councils, city councils in a predicament for the funding sources and whatever else. And as of right now, we have to look at the overall package. How can we continue to work together with the commissioners on roadways and still supply other folks with funding on other projects and whatever else? So it's a multiple-edged sword we're facing now. The state of Indiana, again, state of Indiana is bringing this down on top of us as to where we have to make very difficult decisions, but we're not. I can assure you, we are not jumping into it real fast. As we talked before camera, as a county council, we're planning on having citizen meetings in October and November, because we don't really understand this bill. We do, but we don't. The average citizen, we would invite to come sit down and let's learn together, because been around a long time. The word tax is not a comfortable thing, but fortunately, if forced to do this, we'll have to review it. But again, it's not going to be right now.
Yeah. So you say these will be separate public meetings?
Yes.
As we record this, we're in mid-September, so you say October and November.
Yes.
And that'll be well publicized.
Yes. I've already spoken to our county attorney, Drew Porter, and he's setting it up to where I want it well advertised. I want everybody to have a chance to voice their opinion. We work for you, and we should base our answers on your input, just the way I look at it.
So if it comes about, it's not going to be a surprise. You're going to let folks know.
We want people to know as much as possible. I know the commissioners they'll get bombarded down the line as well. We stick together, we get this done, but again, my priority is with other council members to make sure this gets out within public reach. If you have questions, call your local council person and we can come up with an answer for you.
Are there other options to funding roads without this low HUT?
Well, there are, but it means more taxes or cutting other programs. But what makes this so darn frustrating is if we don't pass the low HUT, which they haven't given us a definitive, because there is a variable, how many pass the low HUT by the date and how many lane miles you have, I mentioned. So there's not for sure how much funds will be in that direct distribution, but we could, it's looking like we'll leave quite a bit of money, on the table if we don't pass the low HUT. And that is entirely frustrating, considering how we currently fund our roads through other sources of income tax.
And as a whole, without phrasing this a different way, how bad are Knox County roads, I guess, or how good are they?
Well, technically,
yes.
Our roads are fair to poor. They were poor, and we are getting into the range between a 1 and a 10 to a 5. So that's the fair range, pushing a 6. But and this was the issue we fought with going to get more road funding from the state is inflation. I mean, I know we're paying more at the pump, but it's not keeping up with how much we're paying for labor, fuel, hot mix asphalt, gravel. It is all exponentially raising in cost, and the state's sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars, and we need to allocate that out to where the roads are the worst, which is the counties. And that's how this discussion really began.
And one thing I want to emphasize again, and I'm sure Kelly agrees, this is not something that your local council and commissioners sit down and said, oh, let's look at, no. This is Indianapolis, the state of Indiana, coming into our rural local areas and saying this or that. So again, very clear, that's not anything local. It's putting us into a situation to where the commissioners can continue to repair our roads. I spent a lot of years driving on county roads, and I have to say now they have improved, but there's a lot of room for more improvement. But if we lose this money, it would be hard to do.
So as we wrap up here, so what message would you want to share with county residents as they consider what this discussion is going to mean to them and to the county?
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. You know, this is a really tough discussion for me because we have our highway department and our highway management and our operations are the best they've ever been. We have methods of selecting our roads through our asset management plan, and we are doing applications to surfaces we've never done before to lengthen the life of the roads. We have operated within the same budget for many years, which a lot of people think it's their property taxes. No, not a dime of property taxes goes to the roads. The fuel tax is what we live and die by. Our additional income tax is what we've added to boost, and we've been very lucky for the CCMG awards. But for us to go back and not get that extra funding from the state, people are going to have to understand we can't do as much. So we're in this quandary. We go back to what we've had for years, which we do less with now than we can do more because costs are so high. Or we pass these additional funding sources that the county at the minimum will take in about $250,000, maximum about $1.7 million. And we can then have additional money from the state, which will be a huge boon to our bottom line of road funding. So personally, I'm not happy about it. And I wasn't happy about it January, February, March, April, or May. But it's what we've been dealt. And we can be status quo and do minimal, or we can add a minimal tax to get more from the state of Indiana. My personal opinion is what it is, but I'm a bit jaded. I'm not in favor of it, but I know what we're leaving off the table and how it will affect our road work in the future. And I'm also hoping that I'm going to keep fighting with a group of other county officials to get this amended.
Okay. Anything you want to add, Mike?
Absolutely. No, I'm not sticking those in that one.
Yeah,
So,
on my bite.
I've seen it operate. Just keep in mind, again, this is not us, okay? This is being forced upon us from the state of Indiana. And we have to deal with the hand we're dealt with. Very simple. Do we want to continue to progress as we should? Or do we want to take a few steps backwards because we're filtering finances, whatever has to be done? And right now, I don't agree with it. I've talked to people. If you mention the word TAX, it's not a very popular thing. It's not very popular for me because we pay taxes as well. You know, I've got 2 vehicles, so I'm paying taxes on 2 vehicles. And I just hope people understand that we don't want to do this, but we also don't want to regress and go backwards. And, you know, like I said, I've many years of driving on county roads where you could hit a hole in the road and never see your car again. And that was not a common thing, but every now and then thing. And we want to try to help fix that. Will it fix it all at once? Absolutely not. But can we continue improving? Yes, we can.
County Commissioner Kellie Streeter, Knox County Councilman Mike Morris, we thank you for being here with us today. I know you guys are accessible, so if people want to get in touch with you, they just, hit the website or, and find your email. And
Either which way.
It's not hard to find it.
Nope, pretty easy. Ask people driving past mowing my yard. They are not afraid to
Oh,
stop.
yeah. Me either.
No, it's good.
Well, again,
Thank you.
Thank you guys. For
Thank you,
being here.
Dave.
Appreciate it. So this has been Beyond the Headlines from First City News. I'm Dave Foster, and be sure and join us next time. Thanks for watching.